The walls of the Kremlin are shaking, not from bombs, not from missiles, but from something even more dangerous for a regime like Putin's: economic collapse. Russia, once rich from oil money and the fortunes of its billionaires, is now falling into a financial black hole. And the biggest shock, China, the ally Putin depended on, is quietly stepping back. Chinese banks are cutting off money, leaving Moscow struggling to stay alive. Could this be the final blow to Putin's war machine? For more than 20 years, Putin sold the image of a strong and steady Russia, a country where the rich showed off their wealth, and oil and gas brought billions to the government. But now, that image is falling apart. Russia's economy is bleeding, and no lie can cover it up. Food is running short. Store shelves are emptying. Families are breaking under the pressure of job losses, lower pay, and rising prices. Billions of dollars are being poured into the war, while regular Russians quietly suffer behind closed doors. But it's not just money that's running out. It's people. The war is taking Russia's young men, and millions more are fleeing abroad to avoid being drafted or to escape poverty. Factories are short of workers. Even the Russian Ministry of Labor admits the country will need nearly 11 million more workers by 2030. To fill the gap, the government is bringing in foreign labor, but it's not enough. And as the workforce disappears, Putin is still holding on to his last big hope: oil and gas. But here comes the real disaster. Oil isn't the easy win it used to be. Russia's refineries are being bombed. Already, 13.5% of them are offline. Reserves are now shrinking, and countries around the world are turning away. The so-called energy giant is losing its power, which brings us to the biggest betrayal. For years, Russia leaned on China to keep its economy alive, thinking Beijing would never let it fall. But the truth is darker. The Chinese banks, afraid of getting punished by the West, are cutting ties with Russia. Deals are now being delayed. Transactions are being canceled. Whole money pipelines are shutting down. Even small banks in China don't want to deal with Russian businesses anymore. Russia thought it could replace the West with Asia. But the opposite is happening now. Money has to go through complicated backdoor routes, broken up payments, and risky tricks. Every step takes longer, costs more, and attracts attention. That financial lifeline is falling apart. And Putin knows it. The embarrassment, the unbreakable friendship with China, reduced to sneaky money moves and patchwork deals. But this isn't just annoying, it's deadly for Russia's economy. Inside the Kremlin, the numbers don't make sense anymore. Defense spending is exploding. While money from oil and gas is shrinking due to sanctions and discount prices, the government is burning through its savings at lightning speed. And budget goals are already smashed through the year. Every dollar spent on tanks means less money for hospitals, schools, and public services. Interest rates are still painfully high, stopping people from investing. While spending inside the country drops, businesses are cautious, shoppers are holding back, economic forecasts keep falling month after month. Russia is stuck in what economists call a tight corridor. Every move raising taxes, printing money, cutting budgets, makes things worse. And now, with Chinese banks backing out, that corridor is closing even faster. But Moscow's problems aren't just about money. Ukraine is taking advantage of Russia's weakness and hitting back hard. Look at the Novokubansk oil refinery, one of the largest in Russia. Ukraine hit it with 17 drones, knocking out more than 4% of Russia's refining power in just one night. Even worse, it was the second strike on that same refinery in only 3 weeks. This isn't a random attack. It's a plan. Ukraine is hitting oil targets over 1,000 kilometers inside Russia, sending a clear warning nowhere in western Russia is safe. Every oil plant, every factory, every energy site is now a target. This is China's worst nightmare. Why pour billions into supporting Russia if Ukraine can wipe out that value overnight? Supporting Putin now looks like throwing money into a fire, and China sees that. Meanwhile, Russia's rich elite, the billionaires who once sipped champagne on yachts, are starting to panic. Their safe world is falling apart. Strange deaths, people going missing, and sudden takeovers are ripping through the elite class. Billionaires are watching their companies get taken by the state, their wealth stripped, and their future destroyed. One of the biggest gold companies, Uzar Zoloto, was taken over by the government in a quick court ruling. Airports, transport centers, even farms are being taken using vague war economy rules. This sends a chilling message. Nothing is safe anymore. Not even the ultra-rich are out of the Kremlin's reach. For investors, this means one thing: get out. Money is leaving the country fast. Business projects are stopped, and long-term plans are gone. The result? The economy is slowing down with no way to recover. And as if things weren't bad enough, Europe is stepping up the pressure. New sanctions are targeting Russia's hidden ships and third-party money routes. Sanction loopholes. The goal is clear. Stop Russia from selling oil, buying key tech, and moving money overseas. Every new sanction makes it harder for Moscow to hide, harder for China to help, and harder for Russia to keep going. The result: higher costs, lower income, and deeper isolation. So, where does this leave China? Xi Jinping now faces a tough choice. On one side, backing Putin could give China access to Russia's massive energy resources. On the other, it could spark a huge backlash from the West trade penalties, military tension in Asia, and an economic battle China doesn't want. Europe might join the US in raising tariffs, cutting off Chinese exports. NATO could grow its reach in Asia.
For China, helping Putin now costs too much. That's why Chinese banks are freezing deals. That's why even the smallest support is being cut. Beijing knows Putin isn't worth the risk. Back in Russia, it's the everyday person who suffers most. Food prices are rising, rent is going up, gas is more expensive, bills just keep piling on. Families are putting off basic purchases, spending is falling. Even small hopes for the future are disappearing. The so-called war economy creates jobs, but not real growth. Factories are making weapons instead of consumer goods. Living conditions are getting worse. Inflation stays high. People's money buys less and less. And the emotional strain is growing all across society. For the average Russian, the hidden tax of war is everywhere. At the grocery store, at the gas station, in the electric bill. The Kremlin can silence protests in the streets, but it can't silence empty wallets. Here's the hard truth. Russia's economy isn't just slowing, it's heading toward collapse. Without trust, laws, property rights, or financial safety, no investor will stay, no bank will lend, and no economy can survive. Everything points to a breakdown, not just in courtrooms, but in real life. Factories are closing, banks are tightening, investors are running, rich Russians are moving their money out. All signs say the same thing. The system can't last. The powerful know it. The bankers know it. Even China knows it. And that's why Beijing is stepping back. It's not ready to risk its own future for Putin's failing empire. In the end, Russia's crisis is more than just numbers. It's the slow collapse of the country's future. From not enough workers, to falling oil money, to Chinese banks cutting ties, to the rich fleeing. The message is clear. Putin's time is running out, and as China walks away, Russia is more alone than ever. Its economy strangled, its leaders desperate, its people in pain. What started as a war to grow power may end with Russia bankrupt, broken, and left behind by its so-called friends. The real question isn't whether Russia will survive this storm, it's how much longer the Kremlin can keep up the act before the whole thing falls apart.